Thank you very much, Rick. Much appreciated. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is a regular council meeting of the Council of the Township of Montclair and is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live on the Montclair TV 34 YouTube channel. It is available on demand and it will be rebroadcast. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Next, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilor Cummings,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Present.
Councilor Price Abrams,
Present.
Councilor Russo, Councilor Russo,
Present.
Councilor Schrager,
Here.
Councilor Yacobelis,
Present.
Mayor Spiller.
Present. Thank you very much. Next, I would like us to move to, we have the agenda with flexibility. The first, Councilman Cummings, can I ask you to read the proclamation for Mr. Brown, if you don't mind?
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate this. Mr. Brown came to my attention through Lieutenant Williams due to his service and also his long tenure of living in Montclair. They celebrated his birthday Sunday with a drive-by 100-year-old resident who I think, is more than worthy of this proclamation. So as I take this honor seriously. Whereas longevity of life is a blessing for an individual and for a community which benefits from the knowledge, creativity, and experience, and this individual brings to all. And whereas the Township of Montclair recognizes with respect and admiration the contribution of senior citizens to our community. And whereas Armour Harding Brown, a longtime Montclair resident, celebrated his 100th birthday on February 9th, 2021. And whereas Armour Harding Brown grew up in Newark after his family relocated to New Jersey from Florida. Mr. Brown married Minnie Brown at St. Mark's Methodist Church in Montclair, and the family thereafter moved to the township in the early 1940s. And whereas Armour Harding Brown served in the United States Army during World War II under General Patton in Europe, Mr. Brown was a part of the storming of Normandy Beach on D-Day. And whereas after returning home from serving overseas, Armour Harding Brown and his wife moved into the old Army barracks on Chestnut Street. The couple then found their permanent home at 19 Virginia Avenue. And whereas Armour Harding Brown served the Montclair community by volunteering as an auxiliary officer for the Montclair Police Department in the early 1960s. In his professional life, Mr. Brown worked for the Passaic Valley Sewage Commission for 30 years until his retirement. He continued his career by serving as a sergeant at arms for the New Jersey Assembly in Trenton for 24 years. Whereas the United States has the greatest number of centenarians in the world, and this month, Mr. Brown joined that population and should be honored for his 100 years on this earth. Now, therefore, the mayor and the council of the Township of Montclair hereby congratulate Armour Harding Brown on the occasion of his 100th birthday and join with his family and community in wishing him well on this auspicious occasion. I so move, Mayor.
Second. And we all say a big happy birthday and certainly give an applause there as well. So thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Very nice.
All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, another proclamation. This is declaring racism as a public health crisis. Whereas New Jersey's racial minorities are less likely to have health insurance and more likely to suffer from many chronic diseases, including obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and cancer. Whereas an overarching goal for Healthy New Jersey 2020 is to achieve health equity, eliminate disparities, and improve health for all people. And whereas racial health inequities are not due to genetic or biological differences between races, but due to entrenched racism in American society. And whereas a growing body of literature shows that social determinants of health, the conditions in which an individual lives, learns, works, and plays, are key drivers of health inequities. And whereas disparities among social determinants of health negatively impact minorities due to barriers in housing, employment, health, economic, educational, and other opportunities, these disparities contribute to poor physical and mental health of racial and ethnic minorities. And whereas, in addition to having an independent influence on social determinants, racism in and of itself has broad-reaching and direct negative impacts on individual health outcomes. And whereas, in order to be effective in instituting change, we must start within our local communities by addressing racism, a root cause that contributes to disparities among social determinants of health and health inequity. Now, therefore, the Mayor and Council of the Township of Montclair hereby affirm that racism is a public health crisis that results in physical and mental health disparities. Based upon this information, the Township of Montclair will actively participate in dismantling racism by engaging with the Mayor's Wellness Campaign to implement evidence-based policies and programming that address racial health inequities, declaring racism and its public health manifestations to be a public health crisis, engaging actively with historically marginalized communities in problem identification and policy creation, and building and strengthening partnerships with other organizations that are confronting racism and encouraging other local, state, regional, and national entities to recognize racism as a public health crisis. And I so move.
Second.
And this is another one of those pieces. I know there's been a lot of focus, especially with the vaccine. We see, and certainly I've had it with a number of town halls with Dr. Purnell and others, focusing on the need to make sure that everyone in our community gets vaccinated, especially those in our minority communities. We're already seeing throughout the state, the governor and the health department note this all the time, that we're seeing a lower number of minorities get the vaccine. Certainly some of that is access, some of that is other factors. We know the long history here in America, so we've all got to do our part. I know many are, to make sure this vaccine gets into all of our communities, make sure it gets into everyone within our community here in Montclair. And that's the only way that we're going to all be safe together. So important work. It doesn't stop and start. It's ongoing. And I think this proclamation also hopefully helps draw attention to the fact that there are many factors that cause the disparities that we see in outcomes affected with COVID. And we've got to, again, try and root those out long-term as we all move forward. So thank you very much on that one. Next, I want to move to public comment. In an effort to minimize exposure to COVID-19 and to maintain social distancing practices, this meeting of the Township Council and further meetings until the pandemic is over will only be available to the public remotely. Those who wish to participate now during public comment, as well as later in the meeting for hearings on ordinances on second reading, should dial in to 408-418-9388. When asked to enter an access code, please enter 179-700-4793 and then press pound. When asked to enter an attendee number, please press pound. When asked, please state your name and then press pound. The administrator will say when it's your turn to speak, and the caller will then hear 2 beeps. At that time, the caller will have an opportunity to make his or her comments. With that, Mr. Stafford, I'll turn it over to you to please manage our public comment section of the portion of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Call over the number starting 201921. It is your turn to comment. 201921. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Glad to be here on the call tonight. This is Ahabla Felicidad, President of the Tenants Organization of Montclair Advocacy Group. Just calling in tonight to make sure that we keep our presence and we make sure that everyone stays very alert and aware of what's going on with the Tenants Organization of Montclair Advocacy Group, Montclair Citizens for Rent Control, and just give information on upcoming meetings that are being posted. So tonight I'm just going to go over a few things for the public to know and for you all to know that Trevor, one of our interns, has started posting our meetings on Montclair Patch. We've been posting our meetings on Montclair Patch for well over a year and a half, but he's actually posting these meetings far ahead now. So we have meetings posted through, they should be posted through June. So you guys can go on to Patch to search Toom, intro, info, and update meetings. Also on Toom Advocacy, our Facebook, TOOMADVOCACY on Facebook. You'll see flyers as ads posted to Facebook. So February 18th is our next meeting. We have 2 virtuals being offered. Because we're all virtual, we will also go back in person when the weather permits. and we'll continue to post. For anyone out there who is possibly a Montclair High School graduate, college student, undergrad, or just kind of out, if you're interested in interning with us, you can reach out to us at tenantsorganizationmontclair@gmail.com. You come with skills. We also provide training so that you know everything that we need you to do, what we would like for you to do, and what you like to do. So we work with everybody who wants to call in. And of course, tenants are still reaching out. Please reach out to your neighbors and your friends, check on them, make sure that they know about the freeze. We're still getting calls and emails in. I would say things are pretty calm right now with the fact that we do have our rent control implementation process that'll be getting started soon after February 19th, to my understanding. I hope that's still correct. That's correct. That has to be, because the dismissal is going to be on the 19th. We haven't heard anything different from that. If you guys have any other update on that, we know we'd like to hear about it as well. But we know that our rent control is fully approved for implementation, and that there was just the one court date kind of out there for this dismissal. But please do continue to reach out to us. Again, that's Tenants Organization Montclair @gmail. And if you want to go to the website to learn more, all-inclusive, Montclair Citizens, MontclairRentControl.org. I don't need 5 minutes tonight. Have a good night.
Mr. Stafford, could I just say something? Because I want to make something clear, Mr. Mayor. Just that there is a hearing on February 19th. It's at 2 o'clock in the rent control case. However, we don't know what the judge is going to do. So, I mean, the point of it being a hearing is that the judge could rule anyway. So you said it like it was just automatically going to be a result. I certainly hope it's in our favor, but I can't say that, and therefore I don't want you to think that it's just a purely administrative thing. I mean, the judge could rule against us too. So listen in on the hearing.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Good. Mr. Stafford.
Caller with the number starting 973-744. It is your turn to comment. 973-744. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Shane Williams from 6 Norman Road, Ward number 1. Thank you again for providing an open session for public comment on the ordinance amendment. I urge the Town Council to support this very modest amendment. Leaf blowers definitely impact landscaper health. It's very clear given the odor, particulate matter, and the noise that they have to deal with. I myself work from home. I have done for 5 years, and the noise from these blowers is relentless, even outside the periods prescribed by the town's existing ordinance. In fact, last week, on February 11th at 5:55 a.m., 2 landscapers were blowing away 2 inches of snow from the sidewalks outside of the Presbyterian Church on Norwood Avenue. I addressed the landscapers. They didn't speak English. I called the police, but they obviously couldn't arrive in time until the landscapers had departed. Similarly, at noon, the same day, landscapers were blowing away those 2 inches of snow from across the street. I called to register the complaints with the town, where of course there's no way to get over here in time. So, you know, my plea is really that enforcement is currently not practical. At the February 2nd Town Council meeting, I recall I think there were 44 complaints, 22 citations. That number would clearly be significantly higher if it was practical to formally register a complaint. I've taken pictures, I've gone to the police station, filed complaints, and then months later showed up in court to confirm the complaint in front of the judge. It's just the reality. The town does not have sufficient enforcement officers to enforce the code, or an effective process to log and formally report violations by the public, other than going through the code enforcement. So, you know, I truly urge all the members to support this modest amendment. It's better for our residents, for the environment, clearly, and also for landscaper health. And then please work with the community to help find an approach that these three constituents can find a way to help enforce this ordinance. I truly believe that where there's a will, there's a way, and I very much appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Manager, I just want to ask a question. This gentleman's talking about snow blowers during a storm. That doesn't, our ordinance doesn't apply to that, does it?
So I will ask Mr. Stafford to speak on a couple fronts. Mr. Stafford, if you'll speak to when there's a state of emergency declared, if that what that triggers, if it automatically triggers, and there's some pieces around that. To your point, Councilman, I will not guess what the caller was speaking to. I think the caller may have actually been speaking to blowers. You know, we commonly refer to them as leaf blowers, but they are used oftentimes for snow removal for light amounts of snow. So he very well may have meant snow, leaf blowers. We call them leaf blowers again for that, but I don't want to guesstimate on that, Councilman Russo. But Mr. Stafford, can you speak to the use of blowers during states of emergency or otherwise, or all those other components, please? You are still muted, Mr. Stafford. Thank you.
My apologies. There would be no impact generally by the declaration by our Office of Emergency Management on the use of leaf blowers during a state of emergency, unless the Office of Emergency Management Coordinator declares it necessary that leaf blowers be used during a certain period. So that happened in the fall, but did not happen the last two times that we declared states of emergency for inclement weather. So if it's not specifically stated in an order, then it would have then a declaration of a state of emergency would have no bearing whatsoever.
Excellent, thank you. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that it sometimes is stated in a state of emergency. As Mr. Stafford's noting, sometimes we have those micro storms or otherwise that require extended cleanups, and sometimes it's put in, other times it is not. So that's just a nuance there that I do want to note. But thank you, Mr. Stafford.
Caller with the number starting 845901. It is your turn to comment. 845901. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Leah Katz, and thank you for taking my call. I live in the 2nd Ward, and I'm calling also in support of the stronger regulation on gas-powered leaf blowers. I wanted to talk a little bit about how, in order to make these new laws work, that there needs to be a combination of awareness of the law and more aggressive enforcement. One example is how we pay parking meters in town, because every parking meter displays the fee, but we also know that parking enforcement in Montclair is pretty aggressive. And in order to make this new improvement actually work, I'm urging the council to please appropriate money to educate both the homeowners and the landscapers about the new law. This could take the form of the Montclair website, social media. Letters to the landscapers would be really helpful, as well as possibly automated text to residents on May 16th and December 16th every year, reminding them that the use of gas-powered leaf blowers are no longer allowed. And in addition to this public education, we need code enforcement to proactively enforce it. These are pretty easy violations. You can just follow the noise, and it could be a great source of revenue for Montclair, just as the parking enforcement is. And then along with that, I wanted to just say that every child in school learns that leaves are absolutely necessary part of our ecology. The trees drop the leaves break down, they fertilize the earth, and leaves provide shelter for insects. The insects are the pollinators and important decomposers, and in turn, they feed the birds, and our bird population has dwindled by 3 billion. 40% of all of our insects are dying, and the earth is really warming up. So I feel this is a great, great first step, and I look forward to a total ban on gas leaf blowers. Towns and cities all over the United States now are coming to some climate action plans and moving towards zero emissions. And I really feel this is an emergency and that the worldwide drive towards zero emissions is being driven locally. So I'm hoping that we can set the standard for New Jersey and be part of it.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 201376. It is your turn to comment. 201376. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Richard Goldstein. I'm the president with the NJLCA, the New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As president of the largest green industry association in the state of New Jersey, issues regarding our ability to work in a manner that best suits our clients and our employees must always be and will continue to be first and foremost in the protection of all. While we recognize the blower ban has been in place in Montclair for the better part of 15 years, we struggle to understand the need for more stringent rules. Are we catering to the minority, or has this been a majority consensus amongst your community? The thought of our professionals not being able to use blowers in late spring to clean up turf grass that grows so fast that cutting makes such a mess, or to not be able to clean pollen from properties in an efficient manner is absolutely ridiculous. Furthermore, moving fall to October 15th, when so many trees defoliate prior to that date, is also ridiculous. Although we are always in favor of and advocates of safety first, it's confusing on how the township is going to police PPE when the township doesn't even have the authority to require PPE. That's an OSHA domain. If it's truly an ordinance to protect health, why just leaf blowers and not chainsaws and hedge trimmers and mopeds and scooters? Aren't these two-stroke engines that operate the same way? Leaf blowers and other outdoor power equipment must adhere to strict EPA emissions requirements specified them before the product can even be sold. If the town is claiming it's a noise ordinance, why won't the township and county parks have to follow the same laws? Do they have something we don't? Not including the masses speaks for discriminatory rules. What's good for the goose should be good for the gander. It's justice for all, not for some. Furthermore, is spending money to control an unenforceable ban a good idea at a time like this, in a desperate economy? Or is placing someone in jail for 90 days because they started a leaf blower a better option? I hope that this board will reconsider making these or any changes to the current law. While we would prefer no law at all, we are willing to accept compromise, but are not willing to be scrutinized or punished for what we have chosen to do for a living because the minority has an issue with our tools. These are tools that they want, and these are tools that they need. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 908358. It is your turn to comment. 908358. Please state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Catherine Mulrow. My husband and I live on the 4th Ward. I'm calling in to support stronger regulation of gas-powered leaf blowers. Being a nurse in this community for over 38 years, I planned on speaking to you this evening about the disturbing health, both mental and physical, concerns associated with the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. By now, you are all aware of them, though. I'd rather take a moment to ask you to take a step back and consider a larger question. That is, Why do we need to risk our health to have a perfect-looking leaf-free yard? Why does the suburban lawn have to be leaf-free? Going a bit further, why do we need vast, expansive lawns at all? What we do need is a paradigm shift, a bold new way of considering how we maintain our properties and what we consider aesthetically desirable. These issues are not up for discussion this evening, but I respectfully ask you to consider them as you decide about the role gas-powered blowers deserve in our community. Perhaps the township could set an example by working with local landscapers and native plant experts to identify several small town-owned properties and imagine creating lawn-free areas that are maintained without reliance on powered machines while creating a sustainable, visibly pleasing landscape. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 973-800. It is your turn to comment. 973-830. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello, was that 973-800 or 830?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is David Wasmuth. I'm a resident of the 4th Ward, and I'm also calling in support of the amendment tightening restrictions on leaf blowers. I absolutely agree with points that people have made before about the nuisance and the potential health dangers of the noise and the dust and the air pollution from the blowers. But there's the other effect, which I've heard people mention for the first time tonight, and that is the effect that it has on wildlife. As the previous caller mentioned, the insect and bird populations in this country and worldwide have dramatically declined in the past few decades. And I know that people in Montclair are more and more concerned about making changes to their landscaping to help address this problem by supporting beneficial wildlife such as pollinators and birds. And leaf blowing just does not fit into this picture. People are aware of the monarch butterfly migration, but they're usually not so aware that most butterflies don't migrate and they stay right here. And many of them overwinter under fallen leaves, and bumblebees and other native bee species overwinter in shallow burrows. And they also depend on leaf cover for insulation. As for the birds, the noise of leaf blowers is very disrupted, especially during the breeding season. And birds also depend on fallen leaves, both for nesting materials and as a place to forage for food, especially in the winter and the spring. When the mow and blow crews come in with their leaf blowers, they scour the ground of leaves, and they're effectively destroying the nurseries of bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects, while also removing a source of food and nesting materials that the birds depend on. The trees and shrubs native to our area also have co-evolved with fallen leaves, and they rely on them for fertilizer in the form of carbon. So the obsession with immaculate, leafless, and basically sterile and dead landscapes that we so often have in traditional landscaping is both outdated and it's very harmful to the local ecology. Beyond just restricting leaf blower use, I think we need, as another caller mentioned, that we need some kind of public education campaign about the benefits of leaving the leaves. So if instead of blasting every leaf away with the leaf blowers, people would just rake them around the bases of shrubs and trees and leave them as a valuable, free, natural form of mulch and fertilizer, or else save them over the winter for next year's compost, we'd not only reduce the use of leaf blowers, but we'd also enrich the soil and help out our beneficial wildlife, which needs all the help it can get at this point. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 646-225. It is your turn to comment. 646-225. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jose Adjournment. I am in the 4th Ward. I have been living in town for the past 21 years. I'm calling tonight to support the new ordinance to limit the use of leaf blowers. This ordinance will create a balance between the overuse of leaf blowers and the health of Montclair residents. Clean air is a civil right. Our children, seniors, and residents with respiratory conditions of asthma and allergies must be prioritized. I hope that you all approve the modification on the ordinance. And let me be clear, because the president of the New Jersey Landscaping Association is misleading and disrespecting Montclair residents. The purpose of this ordinance is to limit the overuse of the leaf blower and not banning the leaf blower at all. We can be kidnapped by a few landscapers. It's 40,000 people versus a few, maybe even not 100 landscaping companies in town. I'm also calling tonight to bring to your attention that the Latino population in New Jersey is 60% of the state population, but represent 26% of all COVID-19 cases in the state. In Montclair, about 13% of our public school students are of Latino background, which means that in general, the Latino population in Montclair could be similar to the state percentage. Locally speaking, the county is not reaching out the Latino community, neither the African American community, to educate them about the full perception of COVID-19 vaccine. There is a lot of misinformation running in town, and also information only in English that doesn't necessarily is reaching out our Hispanic population. This is a serious issue where our elected officials need to work with the county to resolve this unfair situation. Montclair African Americans and Latino residents must have full access to COVID-19 tests and vaccines, as well as education about misunderstanding of the COVID-19 vaccine. We need to have accessible location for people who don't have the luxury of owning a car. Other townships in the state of New Jersey are already working with community leaders to help the Latino and African American community to get tested and vaccinated. We would like to help and work in collaboration with the township in any initiative to resolve this important community health issue. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, may I just make a brief statement? To Jose, the governor is actually having a call for vaccines with the Hispanic community on Thursday. They had one to the Black community last week, and they are taking into considerations how to get the vaccine to those individuals with bilingual language so that folks can get the information through flyers and things like that. So you bring up a very good point, but I just wanted to let you know that, I'll reach out to you later. I can get you the Zoom information to share with all of your friends.
As a note, thank you, Councilor Cummings. Also as a note that there have been multiple town halls also conducted by the State Health Department in Spanish and in English, talking about the vaccine with health professionals to discuss the need and get information out, to answer questions, et cetera. Here in Essex County and in partnership with all of the towns, currently they are transporting between 200 and 300 people per week who do not have access to vehicles to get them to vaccination sites. Anyone who has a challenge getting to a vaccination site can absolutely reach out to our township and our health officer, or also through the county website, essexcovid.org, or call the county hotline, and transportation can be arranged as well. So currently right now, we do have transportation access for people who are unable to get to the vaccination sites. And again, that number is averaging about 200 and 300 per week throughout the county that are getting transported to vaccination sites. So luckily there are some supports in place, and we have to keep making sure, as I started this evening with, in a conversation about raising the attention around these issues with the declaring racism as part of the challenges that we face, institutional and long running, as part of the challenges we're overcoming. So it is information, getting it out, getting people confident, et cetera. But that work is ongoing. Thank you very much. Mr. Stafford.
Caller with the number starting 973746. It is your turn to comment. 973746. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Michael D. Byrne, 142 Gordonhurst Avenue. Hello to the council all. This subject concerning leaf blowers has been a topic in front of the council since 94, 95. And I addressed it as a high school student at that time, and I address it again today. I am somebody who's been involved in the landscape industry. I have a part-time business in town, Pilgrim Pruning. I'm not currently involved in maintenance operations, but I'm still concerned about the availability of leaf blowers to the landscape industry. And for historical purposes, in the 90s, the ordinance was proposed and an agreement was come to, or arrived at, I guess you'd say, between the landscapers and those who were concerned about the blowers. There was a violation of that agreement, which led to a case in the Superior Court and a settlement outside of Superior Court, which I have copies of all of that from that time. And some years later, a subsequent council tried to restrict the ordinance even further and was prohibited from doing so under the terms of the settlement. And I don't see right now why the settlement is not still in effect. So that's number one. Number two, we have in this town a shrinking tree canopy. And as a resident taxpayer, I'm concerned about the shrinking tree canopy and the disincentives that have been put in place over the years to both plant and maintain shade trees. We have no longer have the ability to put the leaves in the street and have the claw machine come and take them away. So we have increased costs to take away the leaves by landscapers using their vacuums or buying, hundreds and thousands of bags and so forth. That's a hidden tax basically compared to the way the leaves were disposed of for decades before that. And now we've restricted the use of leaf blowers already, and obviously some fines are incurred by landscapers every year, but now it's going to be restricted much further, again, increasing the cost of maintaining our properties. So these are all problems, and particularly the legal problems. And as a taxpayer, I would suggest that this be pulled tonight and that we have some discussions offline before the town again enters into a potentially costly litigation, because I'm quite sure that the landscapers that were involved, and some homeowners, frankly, that were involved in the 90s and again in the early 2000s would do what they have to in court to resolve this issue if we can't resolve it outside of court. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 973632. It is your turn to comment, 973632. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, Janine Cox from Montclair Avenue. I'm calling in support of stronger leaf blowing laws. And the prior caller mentioned that there were some issues in the 90s and early 2000s, and I think looking at our current climate situation, a lot of this is, we have new information today that we didn't have 20 years ago, 30 years ago. We know that leaf blowers are extremely inefficient way, and they spew large amounts of fine particles, including, gasoline that, I've heard a recent statistic that it's the equivalent of a Camry driving 1,100 miles, and a leaf blower, just 1 hour, spews as much gasoline as one car driving 1,100 miles. We also have in town idling laws where you can't idle. When you compare that with the cars and the leaf blowers and spewing all this gasoline into the air, it's completely unacceptable. And I think it's great that our town council and mayor are focusing on this issue, and hopefully will put Montclair and us in a position of being leaders in the state. So I thank you for your time tonight, and I just wanted to support these stronger laws and hopefully more effective ways of enforcing it. So thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 703731. It is your turn to comment. 703731, please State your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello, thank you. I'm Anya Sandler-Michael. I serve the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Montclair, and I'm a resident of the 4th Ward calling in support of the stronger regulation of gas-powered leaf blowers and the enforcement of prohibitive periods. Council members, I'd like to commend you for moving forward on the Quiet Montclair Ordinance, and I hope that you vote today to uphold this ordinance. While I don't wish to make unthinking or ridiculous, in the words of an earlier caller, demands on my neighbors, I do, as a person of faith, work to establish morality and justice in the life that we share, which means that I believe we are all called to be our brothers, our sisters, our kin's keeper. And this ordinance allows us to do just that in 2 powerful ways. This ordinance mandates protections for lawn care workers that will serve their health and quality of life. These protections are a moral response to the immoral tendencies of some companies to attend to their bottom line without attending to the basic care of their workers. In addition, this ordinance provides something that perhaps we have all come to treasure during these challenging pandemic days: peace and quiet at home. The mental health of our populace is being tested by dire strain. Now more than ever, we need to stand up for one of the only natural gifts that is known to preserve mental health: quiet. Haven't you, on some of these snowy mornings, stepped outside to stand in awe of the stillness and peace of the quiet world? Doesn't it tend your soul to do so? Please be your kin's keeper and vote yes on this ordinance.
Thank you. Call over at the number starting 973738. 973738. It is your turn to comment. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Caleb Levine, and I am a Montclair resident of 17 years, and I am affiliated with, but not speaking on behalf of, Montclair Beyond Policing, Montclair Democrats, and the Prophetic Council on Policing. From 2017 to 2019, 1 in 3 Montclair police uses of force were in response to mental health calls. 1 in 3. And I cite this statistic not to disparage the hardworking officers of our town, but to ask, why can't we do better? Why don't we have a mental health first responders program in Montclair? Surely a few of the salaries of the more than 110 Montclair officers could be used for such a program. And we don't need to start from scratch. Townships around the country have established programs with remarkable effectiveness and cost efficiency. I understand that the council may not agree with all of my conclusions, but at the very least, the council and appropriate committees should be looking into this question seriously. They should be collecting and considering data from towns that have adopted similar programs, as well as our own town. They should even be considering a pilot program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Call over at the number starting 240418. 240418. It is your turn to comment. Please do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Ben Rich, and I live in the 2nd Ward. And good evening, Mayor and council members. As co-chair of the Montclair Environmental Commission, I am here to voice our support of the internal combustion engine leaf blower ordinance as a positive step in making Montclair less polluted, both from noise and exhaust. Most gas-powered leaf blowers utilize 2-stroke engines, which pollute the air significantly more than their 4-stroke counterparts, as other people have also mentioned. And in a study by Edmunds, 2-stroke leaf blowers have been found to emit more pollutants than a 6,200-pound Ford F-150 SVT Raptor. They also showed that 2-stroke leaf blowers emit 299 times the hydrocarbons of a pickup truck, as well as more nitrous oxides, particulates, and carbon monoxide. We urge the township to take the lead in the transition from gas-powered leaf blowers to electric leaf blowers. Switching to electric leaf blowers will send a powerful message that we are serious about reducing our local pollution, protecting the health of township employees, and improving the quality of life of our residents. In the bigger picture, we know the importance of reducing our fossil fuel use, as described in the 2018 special report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC. We must reduce the use of fossil fuels used by the township and by people in the township in order to reduce our carbon emissions. It's important to work with the business community to make this transition as fast as possible while making it economically feasible. Members of the Environmental Commission encourage you to vote yes on this measure and look forward to living in a township with a healthier, more sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 718-791. 718-791. It is your turn to comment. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comment under 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. This is John Sherman. Happy Mardi Gras to everyone. I'm a longtime Montclair resident from the 3rd Ward. I am also part of the Montclair Beyond Policing Group, who we're interested in furthering some sort of mental health first responders program here in town. Caleb, who just called in, really said it, really pretty much said everything, but I just wanted to add a few thoughts. We are committed to working in solidarity with other organizers for racial and economic justice locally and farther afield. So I was very happy to hear the proclamation declaring racism as a public health crisis at the start of this meeting. So I think that our goals are in alignment with that. Also very grateful for Councilor Cummings doing a call with some of our members last week. And I look forward to next steps we can take to put some sort of pilot program together that works for Montclair. The broad stroke idea that I think a lot of folks are in agreement with is that we don't really need people with guns responding to many of the calls our police get. Obviously, a lot of details to work out, and it will be a step-by-step process. But as Caleb said, there are quite a few programs along these lines already in place in other communities we can take a look at and learn from. So thank you for all you can do to further that.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 917-647. It is your turn to comment. 917-647. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, this is Judith Antelman. I live at 180 Walnut Street. And justice for all, to quote one of the previous landscapers, considers apartment dwellers and also homeowners who choose alternative means to remove leaves. I'm urging all the members to support the stronger ordinance on gas-powered leaf blower restrictions. I'm actually an advocate for an eventual complete ban of gas-powered and transition to electric leaf blowers because of the gas-powered adverse effects and impact on quality of life in Montclair. I agree with all of the previous callers' reasons for a more stringent ban. In addition to the toxicity to the environment, they negatively affect mental health, especially during this time. So I'll focus on students and learning. Leaf blowers have been one of the greatest distractions during the pandemic. Many more people are working from home and in classes from home. I teach writing workshops to middle and high school students, and on any given day during leaf blower season, the noise is the greatest distraction to the students. And this is because the students on Zoom hear the noise of leaf blowers from 4 floors below my apartment while windows are completely shut. I live across the way from Moriarty Funeral Home, and they constantly use 3 to 4 leaf blowers on an empty asphalt parking lot. I have witnessed this, I have photographed it and videotaped it. During many teaching sessions, the students were so distracted by the noise outside and across the street, they couldn't pay attention. Myriad studies about the effects of the pandemic on the mental health of students is at the fore. Let us add leaf blowers to the list. I've been asked if I live near an airport and if in fact a jet is landing on the tarmac. The students and I are visibly distraught and distracted by the cacophony of said leaf blowers. Please, I urge all members, all council to support the stronger ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just have to jump in here, please. Manager.
Councilman Russo, please.
Yeah, this is a teacher, I suppose. She's working from home. Today, I spent the 2 hours finally teaching on site at Montclair State. It was a pleasure to have a classroom
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Stafford.
Caller with the number starting 973-747. It is your turn to comment. 973-747, please. State your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. This is William Scott, the co-chair of the Montclair Housing Commission and also the chair of the Montclair Branch NAACP Housing Committee. Thank you, Attorney Korozak, for the clarification on the upcoming court hearing on February the 19th. And you did indicate there's a possibility that the judge could rule against the Township of Montclair. With that being the case, do you plan on appealing his decision if that turns out to be the case?
That's an easy one, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Caller with the number starting 973-818. It is your turn to comment. 973-818. Please, for the record, state your name and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes. Please, for the record, state your name and do your best. Please also do us the service of muting your listening device, given the echo. Please also do us the service of muting your listening device, given the echo. Please also do us the service of muting your listening device, given the echo. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to do us the service of muting your listening device.
Okay.
I'll put you on hold and we'll come back to you next in the queue. Caller with the number starting 973-634. It is your turn to comment. 973-634. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Steve, and I got on when I heard this cat speaking about concerns about the environment and the increasing global temperature, et cetera. And I had an idea which perhaps will work. The ordinance in Montclair is that you need 3/4 of an acre in order to own a horse. I thought we should take that ordinance out and just say that anyone can own a horse as long as they own property. That way, we can all have horses, and we could have a, perhaps through eminent domain, we can create some sort of a parking area where everyone brings their cars at the town border, parks their cars, and somehow gets to their house. We can figure that out. And I think that would increase the jobs for farriers, since we do not have a automobile manufacturing plant in Montclair. It will not affect us, even if this idea spreads throughout the country. we could further, it could help out with the leaf situation. The homeowners could put apple shavings upon their leaves, and the horses can eat the apple shavings and the leaves and clean up the property that way. We could have horse-drawn carts or some sort of a contraption that would help the seniors to go around. And because the posture on top of a horse is much more visible, people can wave to each other. If this idea is accepted, I would like to further discuss a future defined by candles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Again, caller with the number starting 973-818. It is your turn to comment. 973-818. Please do us the service of turning off your listening device. State your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes. Caller with the number starting 973-818. Caller 973-818. Caller with the number starting 973-744. It is your turn to comment. 973-744, please. State your name for the record and do your best to keep your...
I'm calling on behalf of my wife, Barbara Hadeen, at Alexander Avenue in the First Ward. She had planned to call in tonight, but she's unable to do so. She's a little bit under the weather from her second vaccination for COVID, so there's good and bad news there. Anyway, I want to read her statement. Hello, my name is Barbara Hadeen. I've been a resident of the First Ward of Montclair for almost 29 years. During my time in Montclair, I have seen a lot of changes, some good and some not so good. One thing I have noticed is an increased dependence on landscapers. I understand that some homeowners wish to have a neat, manicured lawn. What I don't understand is how their right to a manicured lawn is more important than my right to peaceful enjoyment of my own property. Because the current statute allows the use of lawn equipment, including gas-powered leaf blowers, 7 days a week, I have no respite from noise during the week. I cannot garden at times unless I wear noise-canceling headphones outside. I can't read the newspaper even in my own home without wearing noise-canceling headphones at times. In my own kitchen, I cannot sit outside and enjoy my morning coffee in the springtime or fall, 2 wonderful times of the year to be outdoors. And when I go for a walk around my neighborhood, I must constantly adjust my route to avoid the noise, dirt, and dust generated by landscaper work. I am not asking for a ban on leaf blowers, and I understand the concept of compromise, but it is not a compromise to be bombarded with noise 7 days a week during whatever period landscapers are theoretically limited, especially when landscapers ignore the mandated time periods. I suggest that in addition to the small reduction in allowable dates and times that is currently proposed, that you consider in the future having 1 day per week when we can be free of the noise generated by lawn equipment. Many towns have already adopted laws that do this, usually disallowing such use on Sundays. I am in favor of the proposed changes to Montclair's noise ordinance, but I do not believe the changes go far enough. We need relief from the noise, and I personally would like to return to the old days when I used my headphones only for relief from my husband's music, not the unmusical sounds of leaf blowers. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller with the number starting 973-818. It is your turn to comment. 973-818. Sir, 973-818, please do us the service of muting your listening device because the echo is so great that we will not be able to hear you. I'm going to take you off mute now. Please do us that service. Caller with the number starting 973-771. It is your turn to comment. 973-771. Please state your name for the record and do your best to keep your comments under 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Attorney Estime here, and I think at past meetings, and I think the gentleman from New Jersey Landscape Association put forth some of the questions that I had eloquently So I'll leave it at that, but I'm happy to hear that there's more participation from individuals who are actually affected by law. I'm of the school of thought that we shouldn't legislate at someone. We should legislate and work together with people who are impacted by it in order to find the best way to make it work. And from what I understand, you all are looking at the penalties as well. I've heard a lot of questions today about why so clean? Why do we require manicured lawns? And I'd like to take it back to, if you look at the code's general legislation, section 100-1, removal required notice. So in that section, it describes what kind of debris that needs to be removed and puts forth that for those who read it, that you must have a manicured lawn. And if you do not do so, you are subjected to a fine not exceeding $2,000 and imprisonment of up to 90 days in jail. So if you want to know why, it goes hand in hand. So if we're going to move forward with this ordinance, we should look at everything and change them so it can work together as a whole. And that's my point. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Mayor, there is no one else in the queue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stafford. With that, I will close public comment. Thank you very much. Public comment is closed. Next, we do have some pending ordinances for second reading. The first is Ordinance 021-01. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to report that all pending ordinances listed on tonight's agenda have been published and posted, and copies have been made available to the public as required by law. Item A is Ordinance 021-01, amending Montclair Code Chapter 217, Noise, Section 6, Internal Combustion Leaf Blowers.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to be heard in relation to the proposed ordinance?
There continues to be no one in the queue, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I will close the hearing on this. Council comment. I see Councilman Jacobellis raising his hand. Councilman?
Mayor, I'd like to comment, but I'd like to ask Councilor Russo if he'd like to comment first.
Councilman
Well, yeah, I've just done a lot of talking already, but I thank you, Peter. But here's what I have to say to everyone. First of all, thank you to Councilor Schlager, Robin Schlager, Second Ward, and Councilor Jacobellis at large, and Mayor Spiller for working very hard on this for several months, starting last year, proposing something that was very good, but I liked some additions. And one of the additions was to help workers, protect workers, as Maplewood did. So I'm very big on workers, and I'm a union leader at the teachers union at Montclair State. And I'm very concerned that these folks who do the work, they're only following instructions from the owners of the companies that do landscaping. My father was a small businessman. He drove a truck with his 3 employees. They went out and delivered soda. They eventually went out of business because nobody bought soda from a truck. They bought it from the store. But I saw him struggle. I worked on the truck with him. I know what it is to have a business, a small business, a landscaping business. I appreciate Michael Burns' concerns. He called me earlier tonight. This is not an anti-landscaper thing. We've had this ordinance for over 25 years. It was voted on, and it was approximately 3,000 votes to 2,000 votes, or 65 to 40 to 35%, maybe 60-40. Maybe it was a little closer, but it was approximately 62, 63% of the people of Montclair voted to uphold the ordinance when it was challenged and fought by landscapers. No one wants to see lawsuits. No one wants to provoke anyone, but we decided to strengthen this. We put in a new ordinance. It was a little better. We got 5 of us together to vote for it, and even more possible support if we changed it a little. I'm very, very stubborn, I guess, but I've been on this council 21 years on and off, been mayor, council in the first ward, council at large. It's my sunset. I'd like to see a quiet sunset. I'd like to have some quiet myself as a teacher from home and working from home and getting older at home. I'd like the people who are struggling to learn, young people learning from home. This may go on a long time, you know. So yeah, we want everybody to work together, but as we went through with the landlords, okay, this has been on the agenda for a while. There has been discussion. We've had this law for 25 years, and all of a sudden, at the end, come the landscapers and the supporters saying we should bring them into the discussion. Well, after this is passed, hopefully, we can still have discussions. We can change it in the future. We can adopt and adapt it. We can do what even Maplewood, our sister city, has done. Maplewood had something, they changed it, they made it even more stringent than ours. We're not banning it on Sundays, we're not banning it, you know, certain hours, but we are condensing the time of use. And the time of use will allow us to have 5 months of pure quiet from the middle of May, when we celebrate May in Montclair. I wish we could do all of May, but half of May all the way to half of October. So you've got 5 months of part of the spring, large part of the spring, all of the summer, and part of the fall. Isn't that a wonderful thing? And we're not banning the use of leaf blowers. We're banning the use of gas-powered combustion engine leaf blowers during that time. We're just shrinking the time and restricting the use and encouraging and requiring safety equipment for those who use these terrible, noisy, dirty machines. They're really bad, and we want to shift everybody, including our own employees, to electric-powered blowers. That's very critical. We want to inform and educate people. We'll be dealing with that in the future, but we want to make sure people understand that we're transitioning from just like old gas clunker cars years ago. We're transitioned to hybrid and electric. It's been a 10-year period of that. It's going to accelerate. We're going to transition from gas-powered leaf blowers to electric in our own usage and in the usage by companies. Now, this is why I support this, and I ask everyone to support it. Not anti-landscapers, not anti-small business, but pro-environment, pro-children learning from home, pro-teachers from home, pro-retired people, seniors that are home, pro-a quiet Montclair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Yakabels, did you want to now speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple comments. I really just want to focus on, some of the things that were brought up by the Landscape Association and some callers over the last few meetings. If this were to pass tonight, victory isn't always just about winning. It's also very much about bringing others along, I think, with you. So I want to make sure that people know that we've heard everything that's come up in terms of a concern. So just a couple things to mention. I do think the conversation continues in terms of our own town policies, making sure that we're following the same laws that we're passing. I do hope that that conversation can continue. Enhancing code enforcement operations in town over time. And we've talked about as well, just making sure there's some money set aside to do a public awareness campaign to make sure that folks understand the changes to the law. Our goal isn't to go out there and fine people, the first day this is in effect. We want to make sure that people understand it. In terms of the punishment piece, which has been a little bit of a hot topic, I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the second ordinance that we're going to consider after this, item B, where if you look at the penalty language, it's identical to the penalty language in item A, the leaf blower ordinance. So that's to say that this is widely used language across a lot of our code. And people should just know that. And a few of us have decided that we will try and look at that language and see if there are laws where that language seems particularly harsh, and if there are options to mitigate that. In response to the Landscape Association call earlier, the examples brought up about chainsaws and mopeds. I don't think we have an epidemic of chainsaw usage in town. I'm not too worried about that. I was glad that gentleman reminded us, though, that they do like to blow pollen in the air late in the month of June. As somebody who suffers from both asthma and allergies, it'll be a relief to me that we're not using leaf blowers to blow pollen around, and we'll let that settle. I really do want to thank my colleagues, all of you, for the collaboration on this. I think, it started as a conversation with Councilwoman Schlager and with you, Mayor, became a better product after working with Councilwoman Price Abrams and particularly Councilman Russo, and also became a better product through the feedback we got from Deputy Mayor Hurlock and Councilor Cummings and everybody who's called in. So I feel pretty good about the balance that we're striking with this ordinance in general, and I want to thank everybody for the support.
Councilwoman Schlager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to, at our last meeting, I brought up the subject, and I believe Ms. Katz and Mr. Rich brought it up tonight about education, not only to homeowners, but to the landscapers. But I also wanted to bring up our Montclair Public Schools buildings. We have 11 schools, lots of whom have sweeping lawns, like Nishwain and Hillside School, along with the Montclair High School football field and the soccer field by Watchung Plaza. Both of those fields, I believe, have turf surfaces. And I think the only way to clean those, I think they get shampooed every once in a while, but they get blown all the time. Not only for leaves, but for all those little black things that come out of the turf. So there's a lot more here other than homes. It's our schools and our fields. So I hope that we relay all of this to the Montclair Public School System, and that they make they take the steps to follow this ordinance if it should pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I see Councilwoman Price Abrams. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. So I appreciate really all the robust public input from tonight and from past meetings, and obviously that of my colleagues who've just spoken before me. So I really just wanted to add that I think the diverse range of rationales why this is an appropriate measure for us to proceed with. I think a lot of the commentary helps us understand that environmental health has a real correlation with public health. And in that way, it's about the environment, it's about human health. Again, many of the things that were mentioned by others. And I think this is a balancing of interests. And I really think in that way, it is the right thing to do and to move forward with. I also emphasize the need for public education campaign that would follow should this be enacted, and whether that requires a modest sum to be appropriated at a later time, or we can do it through channels that are really free and available to us as a township. So I thank you and appreciate the conversation tonight.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other council comments? Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I do appreciate the discussion. And I did receive quite a few number of calls, emails over the last 2 weeks. Many of them were very civil and productive, and I appreciate those. Those that weren't, I'm not going to respond to. I was actually the one who seconded Mr. Russo's motion to amend this at our council meeting last month. So clearly I had some concerns. Many of those concerns are still present. I do have a problem, as has been mentioned several times, with enforcement, or actually should be more like lack thereof. And the fact that there are competing interests here that may or may not be represented. I hear a lot of times too, this is a good first step. I'm not in the business of first steps. If there's an issue, I like to take it on head on, as we've done for the last 8.5 years. I still have very serious concerns about the punitive aspect, jail time. If we're amending an ordinance, this would be the time to do it. I also have heard a lot about the disparate impact on certain socioeconomic groups. I've got a concern about that. We talked a little bit last time about mower size and stroke and horsepower and CC. I actually went back and looked at that, and I want to thank a lot of people sent me information on that, which was very helpful. And that it's not because lawnmowers are smaller. In fact, many of the lawnmowers that I see are larger. They carry men that are 190 plus pounds on them. So again, my concern is still that we've concentrated on leaf blowers. Is it a health issue? Is it a noise issue? I hear that, people have serious health concerns. Limiting it by 1 hour during the day for me doesn't seem enough, but that's just me, and we're all entitled to our opinion. But I feel that this particular ordinance is still deficient in many ways. And that's why I voted the way I did last time, and will most likely vote the way I will tonight. But I just want to get that out there because there's been so much talk about that. And I actually pulled the lawsuit from Maplewood because there's a lot of talk about that too. And I was somewhat surprised, and forgive me now, I'm putting my lawyer hat on. This was a federal suit that was filed in federal district court. This is not even a state court suit. And it wasn't necessarily that because the landscapers were being treated differently than the town or the citizens. There's a lot of other issues in there, and they could very well come up here. And as I said before, no, you don't make a decision based on being afraid to be sued. Okay, as an attorney, I know better than that. However, I've got a lawsuit out there now. It's been going on since 2017. We most likely may see something like that now. And by the way, I'm also in the middle of a pandemic, and some of my revenue streams are down by over 70%. And we just came out of it. We didn't come out of a lawsuit because we still have a lawsuit going with the tenants, not the tenants association, the rent control ordinance that we had passed, which I did support after working very closely with you, Mr. Mayor, and we came to many compromises on that, and I'm grateful for that. So I still have problems with this. Electric leaf blowers still blow things and stir things up, and allergies. I also have allergies as well. And I just wanted to get that out there. There were too many emails for me to respond to and text messages on both sides of the issue. I have to say, I received a fair amount on both sides of the issue. I welcome that. Unfortunately, I can't respond to everyone given the workload and the pandemic and all the other things we're dealing with. But I want to make it clear out there why I'm voting the way I'm going to be voting and why I did in the past. And this is the most efficient way to do it. I'm not here to debate anyone. I respect everyone's opinions. I hope they do mine as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Any other Councilwoman Price Abrams?
I apologize. I did want to mention one other thing, so thank you for the courtesy, Mayor. And just as this has been mentioned, again, just by the Deputy Mayor, but by other members of the council, there was the issue having to do with the stringent penalties that are associated both here and in many of our statutes, other parts of the noise ordinance. Just as the liaison to the Civil Rights Commission, I did want to specifically acknowledge that there had been a lot of side conversation about that in particular. One of the callers did also mention it just now. And it is something that we're going to try and look at and understand whether there is any discretion in that space that we don't need to have such, for a matter that may never rise to the level of jail time. Perhaps that shouldn't be within the discretion of a judge for this type of an infraction, should it happen. So again, public education will be part of addressing that, but we don't need language where it doesn't belong, which doesn't mean it doesn't belong anyplace. So it might be a larger undertaking. I don't see that as a reason to hold it up at this time. It will be a ways before someone could be remotely, under that kind of a threat of enforcement, despite the fact that our township attorney had said he's never seen it happen before. Nonetheless, I'd like that to be cleaned up, as would other members, I believe, of this body. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that piece as well. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other council comments? Okay, seeing none, I will just simply also say that I do agree. I think this is the way legislation is supposed to work: robust conversations, differing opinions, give and take, flexibility, and then hopefully coming to something that probably is not perfect in anyone's eyes, which means you found some kind of balance around an issue. And certainly want to commend all my colleagues, no matter how they're going to vote on this, for their diligent work on this. I know that everybody takes this work seriously and puts in the time. So I want to thank everybody. With that, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilor Cummings?
No.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock?
No.
Councilor Price Abrams?
Yes.
Councilor Russo?
Yes.
Councilor Schlager?
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you. Next is Ordinance 021-02. It's amending our Municipal Code 295 Stormwater Control. Madam Clerk?
Well, I reported that all the pending ordinances listed on tonight's agenda have been published and posted as required by law. You just read the title. It's Ordinance 02102, amending Montclair Code Chapter 295, Stormwater Control. Is there something else?
Nope. Making sure that for those listening and those who are tuning in for this one, we open up the hearing again, just so they know that all requirements have been met on this one as well. They're tuning in for this. So with that, I will open the hearing. Anyone who wishes to be heard in relation to this proposed ordinance, the hearing is open.
There is no one in the queue for call, Mayor.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close it and turn over a council comment. Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you very much. Next is our consent agenda. Items. Sorry. The items below have been placed on the consent agenda. Are there any items that any council member would like withheld from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to have a discussion on item number 5.
Okay, thank you. Item 5 is being withheld. Any other items?
There's somebody else in it. I had an issue, not an issue. Please, item number 4, is that with Arterial regarding the Church Street?
You want to let's hold that one out then, Councilor Cummings. So let's pull 4 and 5 out for more information. Any other items? Seeing none. All other consent agenda items are so moved. And Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Second.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Councilor, let's do them in order. Councilor Cummings, would you like to go to number 4 first?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned in the finance meeting the other day, that the Montclair Center bid had discussed the possibility of basically taking over this, and they had some funding that they were looking to use for that. And I just want to make sure that I don't know how far along this has gone and if there's been any discussions so that, if this is something that they can handle, are we okay with that? And if not, then I think we need to let them know so that they can look to reallocate the funding that they were considering for this to for some other use.
Well, I will, let Mr. Stafford also speak to this, but 2 things, Councilman. I know just, obviously looking on this issue for a while in the 3rd Ward, and Councilwoman Price Abrams is involved in this piece as well. But the Church Street roundabout had a number of phases. One was the street component in terms of the paving that you noticed, right, that we're all noticing in the area right now and some of the streetscape that's there. The second thing and the other big phase was specific to designing, some of the benches that would be there, which part has lawn, which part has other pavers, that type of design work. And then there's really a third component, which is the fountain itself. The fountain design has already been discussed. That's a longstanding conversation and something selected. The challenges are in funding, and kudos to our township staff for really tracking this down. We're able to receive significant grant dollars for the road work that's happened so far. So I'll call it phase 1. We saw that mostly completed at this juncture. The second piece, which is this contracted work, is for Arterial to look at the streetscaping around the roundabout itself, proper bench placement, some of the other pieces. Again, not that extensive work. Mr. Stafford, you can explain some of the other pieces as needed. But Councilor Cummings, to your point, One of the other major big ticket items that will remain is the fountain piece itself. This does not include that, and that part is a significant financial undertaking, which we absolutely, I think I would speak for all of us, would love the bids help with, partnership with, to help provide, through their grant process, some of the dollars to help get that done. That is not even in any of this yet, and it's a really significant budget item. So that's kind of the third phase, if you will. So I think those are kind of the components of the breakdown. There's certainly still a need for as many dollars as we can get through public-private partnerships and grants on this project, and we would welcome them, I would assume. Mr. Stafford?
There's not much more I can add, Mayor. You've hit the nail on the head. This contract with Arterial in the amount of $9,990 would be for drawing design services, more particularly construction drawing design services and project management assistance for that appropriately labeled phase 2, which would be grassy areas, benches, anything of that sort.
I appreciate that from both of you. I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't something that the bid wasn't aware of and that it is a smooth operation. So I thank you.
Absolutely. Councilwoman Price Abrams, see your hand.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I appreciate understanding where we are in that process, and I know you just acknowledged it's a piece that you as a councilman had worked on, and that it is in, so to speak, my ward at this point. But I really would appreciate an opportunity, whether from the staff or other members of the EDC, to have the benefit of what the plans are. I don't think I've seen any of them, and to the extent that this contract is only to enhance what the existing contract is by that amount of $9,900, I don't object, but I would appreciate the opportunity to hear what the thoughts are and have an opportunity for some input, if that's appropriate.
Mayor, may I just say something?
Sure, Attorney Krasik. Well, before you do, Attorney Krasik, I think that to your answer, Councilwoman, we certainly can make sure that it was with the previous council that there was a full presentation on the fountain itself and some of the surrounding pieces. We can make sure that you've got all that and see all that, and that's what these guys are working off of as a to your point, and what this says is an additional. Take a look at that design and see there can be an improvement. So at least you're looking at, we're all seeing what was the start point, and then we will see what they come back with as a modification to that. So short answer, yes. And then Mr. Karasik.
I just wanted to make clear that, if the bid who is trying to secure funding and perhaps may get a substantial amount of funding, the council is not going to surrender control of the project or of the design to the bid. That will still be a council decision. And so this is to Ms. Price Abrams, you'll fully participate in the process that ultimately determines what goes there. If the bid is able to provide funding, that's fine, but it's not going to be their project, it's still the council's project. That's all.
Thank you.
Any other council comment or questions on this one? Seeing none, I so move resolution R21-028.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Next is resolution number 5 on our agenda, resolution R21-29. Councilwoman Schlager, did you have some questions?
I did. Thank you, Mayor. So in looking over all the paperwork that was in our packet for this, I see that we went out for an RFP on March 19th. That's when the resolution was passed by the council at that time to go out for a bid for the promotional examination RFPs for the fire department. Also attached to that is a letter from the state authorizing that, which is dated March 5th. Then I see that there is a memo from our fire chief to Mr. Stafford that the bids were opened on December 16th, 2020. So So the RFP went out in March 2018. The bids were open December 16, 2020. The ordinance in front of us tonight is to award one of the three bids that came in. It's the medium bid for $47,000, where the lowest bid was $38,000 and the highest bid was $72,000. So I have a question about the dates and why we awarded why we are potentially awarding this contract to the middle bid. I also wanted to know, I believe that that the state of New Jersey gives fire tests. I wanted to know perhaps why we're not using that, and if we did or do, what is the price of using that testing system? I also want to know, so there's a 3-year span here from 2018 till now. So I assume there's been no testing in 3 years or longer. So I'd like to know about that. And those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let me do my best to answer your questions in order. The letter to Mr. Karasik, which I think you referenced as being dated March 5th, is dated February 20th of 2018. It was received by our law department on March 5th. That was a letter that was generated by the state's Department of Community Affairs in response to the township seeking authorization that's required by law from the state to use the competitive contracting process. The township asked the state to use the competitive contracting process in this endeavor for various reasons, one of which is the primary reason, which I'll explain in a few minutes. We received that authorization from the state in March of 2018, and then the governing body on March 20th of 2018 authorized the actual use of competitive contracting, which is also required by law. That's resolution R18084 that you referenced there. We didn't put this on the street right away because we didn't have immediate need. We let the lists that existed become close to exhausted, at which point we put it on the street about midway to late of 2020. So understand the process. We went to the state in January of 2018. The state in February of 2018 said, yes, you can. We're then required to have the governing body, you folks, say, yes, you can use competitive contracting. When we needed it, we had the purchasing department with the fire department draft the specifications to put the competitive contracting on the street, which happened earlier in 2020. That generated the fire chief's memo that you referenced that's dated January 19 of 2021. So your next question, I think, had to do with the fact that we're not awarding to the lowest proposal number. You are absolutely right. And that is the primary reason why we sought authorization of the state to use competitive contracting. If you look at resolution R18084 and look particularly at paragraph 5, you see in that whereas paragraph that when we do our evaluation, we're not going to necessarily rely on lowest cost proposal like we would have to in an ordinary bid. Competitive contracting by definition allows the township and anyone similarly situated that gets authorization from the state to use the entirety or the totality of the circumstances of the evaluation, which doesn't necessarily lend itself to lowest proposal in every instance. And that's what we found here. We received the 3 bids or the 3 proposals. Our committee evaluated the 3 proposals, and the lower cost proposal contained vague responses as to work to be performed, including reviewing our fire department's policies and procedures, designing exam questions and interview questions, and grading exams and interviews. Additionally, the company that provided the lowest cost had a very small sample size of this type of work performed for similarly situated municipalities, thus affording it and its personnel a very limited amount of experience and qualification. And while the recommended proposal is $8,545 more, I truly believe, and I try my best to safeguard the taxpayers' money as if it's my own family's, I truly believe that $8,545 is to be well spent in what will be such a critical process.
Mr. Stafford, I did hear one other question there about using the state. I think the councilwoman said using the state.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I neglected to answer that. The state does offer tests. We are not civil service, right? We are not a civil service municipality jurisdiction. We can get in on the state's civil service tests, but what I will tell you is we have investigated this in the past. We did it in 2016 and 17 for our police department when we did this with the police department. However, what we have found inevitably is, and across the board, is the state does not issue tests for lieutenant, captain, and battalion chief. It might be that the state offers a test for lieutenant in 2021, for captain in 2022 or 2023, and then battalion chief in another year, and that does us no good. We do them all three at the same time.
Okay, and when was the last time we had a test given for the fire department in that town?
It's quite some time. I think it's in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 years. It definitely predates me here.
And the state test is not adequate. It doesn't give us what we're asking for. Is that correct?
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's not. What I'm saying is it's not necessarily applicable to the Township of Montclair because we're not a civil service jurisdiction. And if they're not offering that test for 2 to 4 to 6 years or 1 to 3 to 5 years, it doesn't do us any good. We'd have to wait that time to get on board their test. And I'm not sure if it's cost effective. It wasn't effective for us in 2017 when we examined it for the police department.
But the police department used the state test?
No.
They did not use the civil service test either. They used a private company.
Yes, in 2017, the governing body passed a resolution awarding a contract for a company for $77,750 to do the promotional exam.
So this is a lot of money. For this testing, how many promotions would there come out of this testing when all is said and done?
I would have no way of knowing. It would depend on how many officers, if any, during the period of the existence of the list, retire, requiring moving up.
And we don't know how many of those firemen, firewomen are eligible at this time for that. I don't.
Eligible to retire? I don't know.
I'm sorry. Eligible for a promotion, not retire.
Well, anyone that's in. No, it's a certain universe, of course. It's anybody who's in grade for X amount of time is eligible, and firefighter is eligible to take the lieutenant's test. Anybody at grade at lieutenant is for X amount of time is eligible to take the captain's test, and likewise for battalion chief.
Because it just seems, it's to spend $47,000 to promote 2 people. It's just, it just doesn't sit well with me. And I believe you said the last time they took the test, nobody got a promotion. Did you say that?
No. What I said was the last test predates me being here. So it's at least before October of 14. Since I've been here, dozens of people have been promoted from those lists. The lists are either exhausted or close to being exhausted, thereby requiring new lists.
Okay. It's a lot of money for testing. And how are the tests administered? Are they written tests on a computer? Are they physical tests?
They are both.
They both.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. I mean, maybe the chief could explain it better, to us what the process is. I don't know. I want to be fair to the firefighters, but it's a lot of money for SATs. Don't cost this much money to administer.
Understand what's involved. What's involved is the company will come in and review the Montclair Fire Department policies and procedures, rules and regulations. The company will take those and divine those using test guides and provide those guides to the eligible employees who will sit for the test. The company will design the test questions, both the written part and the interview part, which will involve practical exercises. The company will conduct the examinations and the interviews. The company will grade the exams and then provide the lists and then defend the exams should any issues arise.
Okay, so they're coming here to do this from Illinois? The
Yes.
company's in Illinois. Okay.
Yes, that would be a combination of both virtual work and in-person work, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other council comments, questions? Councilwoman Price Abrams and then Deputy Mayor. Councilwoman?
Thanks. And I wanted to pick up for further edification to the extent that the manager, Mr. Manager, you just explained that competitive contracting, and I think you're contrasting that with what I've mostly seen so far, which is the lowest responsive bid or something like that. So what's the distinction between, would this not be the least lowest responsive bid? Is that not the same, or?
No, it's not. The lowest responsive proposer quoted at 38,000 flat.
I guess I'm saying what makes it not responsible or responsive. Anyway, it's a distinction is what you're saying. They are completely different ways of being bound by public contracting.
Competitive contracting versus the bidding process, yes, they are completely distinctive. If you use the bidding process, you're obligated to go with the lowest responsive bidder. And in this instance, the township didn't want to do that, which is why back in 2018, we sought authorization from the Department of Community Affairs to use the competitive contracting process.
So just to press the point, the one that was the lowest here was responsible and responsive and lowest, but didn't meet our needs. So I don't know why it's responsive or responsible.
They were responsive because they provided a response. They are not the most responsible proposer for the reasons I said before.
Okay. I don't have to further press this, but I just was trying to understand when one would be applied and why we couldn't have selected the one we wanted on the other process. I guess that's what
That's a function of the local public contracts law.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Stafford, a couple quick questions. I see we have the 2018 resolution and then the letter from the Department of Community Affairs. Do the criteria change in the intervening? I mean, how do we know this is still, hasn't expired, I guess is the best way to say it, or has there been any intervening changes that we need to be aware of?
The answer is no. The state's authorization is good, and once the governing body authorizes it, that authorization continues in perpetuity. Move past this testing instance in the year 2030, whoever's sitting in your seat and whoever's sitting in my seat can rely on resolution 18-0084. The township doesn't have to go back to the state. The township can use competitive contracting at that time as well.
I will throw out there now for the edification of all those involved that by 2030, I will not be sitting in this. Just want to put that out there. I thank everyone for that. It's been an interesting ride. A couple more quick questions. Now, you said that there may still be, so there's the old list, right? And this would basically become a new list or something to that effect. Those individuals on the old list, does the list, I mean, does that list go out and then they start a brand new list based on this test? Okay.
Yes. That list, when a new list is promulgated, that list terminates. That list no longer exists. The new list that's promulgated starts from that point forward.
So then essentially, Mr. Stafford, those individuals on the quote old list who may have been in a certain part of the list, if you will, they have to start over again to take the test to get status on the new list. Is that, am I right?
Yes, and that is the same in civil service. If you're number 15 on the civil service list, and a municipality or a county or the state promotes 1 through 14, and you are now for all intents and purposes, number 1, and the list expires, you have to do the process again, and you are subject to the universe at large.
You anticipated my question on the civil service, so thank you. You're a step ahead of me, as always. And you said the list when the list expires, right? How does the list expire? Is that just a matter of time? Is that a decision that's made on the management side? How does that work?
In Montclair?
Yeah, since we're not civil service.
When we produce the new list as the result of this testing process, the new list will take effect, and the existing old list will terminate.
Okay, and we said that was roughly how old the old list from before? It was predated.
I don't know off the top of my head. My best recollection is it's at least 7 to 8 years old. I've been here working for the township for 6.5 years, since October of 2014. I remember being approached at the time with respect to the list was old at that point.
Okay. All right, that was helpful. Thank you.
Councilman Cummings?
So Tim, I'm just trying to pretty much follow up on, I think, Councilor Slager's question. So my question is, council passed the approval to do this in 2018. When did we receive the 3 bids that we're talking about right now?
It was in the fall of 2020.
Okay, so we waited 3 years. Okay, so we waited 3 years, 2 years before we sent this out.
Correct, yes.
We just got the approval and then waited. So these are fairly new bids.
Oh, they're almost brand new proposals, yes.
All right, okay.
Yeah. The proposal for the company that we're recommending is dated December 16th of 2020.
Okay.
Any other council questions, comments?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I may, forgive me, I know I'm coming back here for a second, but just another quick question for Mr. Stafford. So based on the test, Mr. Stafford, is there input at the manager's level as well then as to decision making? Does that rest with the chief, the fire chief, or can you just tell me how that works logistically?
Are you asking how is the order of the list arrived?
Correct. And is there any input
that's
from?
what the company is going to do, lock, stock, and barrel.
Okay. So there's no flexibility for like the manager's office, you as the head of the administration, or the, Chief Herman or whomever is the head of the organization. It's set on this test, really, is what you're saying?
The chief and his designees will have input at every level of development of the test. With respect to grading of the test, no, neither the chief nor I nor any township employee will have anything to do with that for various reasons, not the least of which, if issues arise, there's nothing on the part of the township that certain people wanted certain people on the list. That doesn't exist.
Understandably. Okay. So it's basically up to the scoring system, if you will, for the test. And
yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know if I heard this or not. So who decides what's on the test? Is that from the company or is that internally?
It's the company working collaboratively with the chief and his designees. So in other words, they will come to the fire department and review our personnel policies and procedures, our rules and regulations, our training materials, and then they will work again collaboratively with the chief and his designees, his project designees, to know what our folks do. And they will then take all of that information and put forth their test, both in objective exam questions and interview questions.
Okay, so then the chief does have a say in what will be on the test in conjunction with the organization that we hire.
From collaborative work, yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's all right.
I have one more question. Yes, thank you, Mayor. When the test is all said and done and the list is generated, is that a public document?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would suspect it is. However, I would defer to the gentleman from the law department.
Mr. Karasik?
I'm not 100% sure. I know that the people on the list certainly know who's on the list and they know what the list looks like, and I don't think they have any confidentiality requirements. So whether we have to produce it in Oprah, I don't want to speculate. Likely it's not confidential.
Okay.
Well, let's see, because the people who are on it know it,
Right. Oh, thank you all very much.
Mr. Mayor, one last point, if I could. We kind of left that issue a little bit open. If we can get a definitive answer on whether that's confidential or not, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mr. Karasik, if you could check.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'm pretty sure it's
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Okay, seeing none. I so move resolution R 21-29.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Abstaining.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
I will abstain.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Spiller.
Yes. Next, Councilwoman Schlager, would you mind doing resolution R 21-032?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Whereas invoices against the Township of Montclair in favor of the following persons for the amounts set opposite their respective names have been received, duly audited, and found correct. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Township of Montclair, the County of Essex, that said invoices be, and they are hereby ordered paid, and that checks be drawn by the Finance Department to the order of such persons for the amounts respectively and hereinafter stated on the schedule attached hereto and made a part hereof. This bill list is dated February 16th, year 2021, to the amount of $2,436,805.63, and I so move.
Second.
Questions, concerns, comments? Councilwoman Price Abrams.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Mr. Stafford, it is page 5. I did find the page. And I know we have the Garden State Municipal GIF, and I have some idea of what that is. But I wonder, it's obviously a significant dollar amount. If you could just explain whether that's for services rendered, that's for certain. Can you explain what the funding is there?
I believe that's just simply a periodic intermittent payment of the GIF's assessment to the township over the course of the year.
It's what we pay for services rendered to that body for managing.
It's our insurance coverage as well as workers' comp, risk management, et cetera. We receive periodic assessments and we make those payments when they come in.
It's like paying our health plan, though. It's like it's that kind of a payment. It's like paying a premium, but it's not a premium. It's a different kind of payment.
It would be like a private citizen paying his or her car insurance bill instead of paying $3,600 for 6 months on January 1 and then again on July 1, paying X amount % over the course of the 6 months.
The point is, it's not for services. It's for the premium, so to speak. So that's what it is. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cummings,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Hurlock,
Yes.
Counselor Price Abrams,
Yes.
Counselor Russo,
Yes.
Counselor Schlager,
Yes.
Counselor Yacobelis,
Yes.
Mayor Spiller.
Yes. Thank you very much. That completes our agenda, and I'll go around for our usual comments. Before I do, just a matter to put out there as is we have a council hire that's coming up, as we did with the judge, clerk, other positions. We need to have a subcommittee for the assistant township attorney. With that, I'd like to put a group, as we usually have, put a group of 3 to follow the usual process, look through the resumes that are put out and come back in, and then to bring back to this group any candidates that seem appropriate. With that, in this dynamic, I think because they will work in a little bit different way directly under our township attorney, I certainly think he should be one of the 3 on there. Through those, some major objection, but yeah.
No objection. It's,
they do have to work hand in glove with our attorney, so that's the first piece. But we do need 2 council people to look through that piece. So if any, would be interested here, and let's get that.
Mr. Mayor, I would very much like to serve on that committee. I have a very great interest in choosing a good assistant town attorney.
Councilman Russo, anyone else interested in serving on that subject?
As much as I appreciate Ira, this is a council hire. I think this should be done completely by the council. Others may feel differently, but so that's how I feel. I don't need to be on the committee. I think it should be 3 council people.
Fair enough. 2 thoughts. And again, it does have to come back to the full council, be the one making this determination. But yeah.
It's up to you. As far, obviously, I can be on it or not.
Understood. We'll work through that one and figure out how everyone wants to go. Deputy Mayor and Councilman Yacobelis. Deputy Mayor.
I'll let Mr. Yacobelis go first.
I was actually just going to say, I think the deputy mayor should be on it as an attorney, just making sure that, we're screening for the right skill set and experience. I would like to offer just from a logistics and process perspective, my help. And I don't have a strong opinion one way or another if Mr. Karasik is on that. But I do think you can have 3 members of council and Mr. Karasik be the committee.
Absolutely.
I would like to take back the fact that I deferred to Mr. Yacobelis since he volunteered me.
Hey, listen, what it shows, Mr. Deputy Mayor, is that you can still be a rookie sometimes. But
right, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. I'm happy to serve. I tend to agree with Mr. Cummings. I would have this as 3 council members. No disrespect to Mr. Karasik, but I just think logistically it might be an easier lift, at least to go through the initial run through, if you will, and then go from there.
All right. Only in that you heard Councilman Yacobelis says, do you guys, I would say, any objection to let's do the combo, do 3 council persons and the attorney? Does that seem like a fix on this?
I agree with Councilor Cummings who said that, but I'd like to see, I just think it's good to have attorney input, so it's good to have Councilor Hurlock, and maybe we could have Councilor Lori Price Abrams being an attorney. I don't know.
Well, or I was going to say, female, I would do it as well. If whatever.
Okay.
What do you think?
Councilman Schlager asking to be on here. So I hear right now, unless I hear otherwise, I hear Councilman Hurlock, Schlager, and Russo. And does anyone have objection to also having Attorney Karasik, who the person will be working with, also with that group? Does that work? Or is he not to be a part of it?
I would think that the council should be able to meet as well, Mr. Mayor. And I mean, I don't have a problem working with Mr. Karasik on it, but also like the flexibility of the council being able to discuss as well and have that flexibility. And, again, from just a purely logistical standpoint, as Mr. Yacobelis indicated.
All right, I think that works.
3 council people tell me not to show up. Believe me, I won't show up.
I was about to say, those meeting dates and set a few as you need without him, and the ones that can be included in there. Does that sound like it works?
Sounds like it works. Yeah, I would have the longest serving council member serve as our chair, so I'll defer to Mr. Russo on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, I will go around the horn on comments. I got to try and remember how I did it last time. I was trying to mix it up. Yes. Let's start with. Let's go with Councilman Cummings. Let's go start with you today.
Mr. Mayor, members, thank you for the opportunity. I'll be real brief. I want to give a big shout out to Ann Mernon, Montclair Partners Foundation, the Salvation Army, Union Universal Congregation. We heard from one of their pastors, Pastor Anaya, tonight, in Union Baptist Church, for under the direction of your task force, Ed Remsen, we've been able to start a daytime respite for homeless. And so now the homeless have a location to go to, Salvation Army in the morning, Union Universalist in the afternoon, and then Union Baptist in the evening. And the council finance committee will probably be sending forth some legislation so we could, support that endeavor, which has been taken up right now by the Montclair Partners founders who gave some money for that. So that's a great thing. And then for folks who called in, which I'm surprised we didn't hear much about with the body cams that the state has put out there, I will say that, Chief Conforti is on top of it. I think we'll be ready when it's required by law to be implemented. He's already identified 3 companies that he wants to bring forth. And he's, Ira did a great job on getting some information to the council on this. So I think that's something that we will be prepared for. I think that, I have some thoughts about that as personally. I think our police are great at their job, and Chief Conforti has said that they welcome body cams. So I think it's just a matter of how we're going to implement that. And then on today, I had a very interesting call with the Rotary. I met with the Rotary Club of Montclair, and it was a good time. And I told one of the members, Stuart Keel, that I would look to follow advice that his father gave him when he was a young person. And that was, the secret to success is everything counts all the time. And I took that to say that as we as a governing body look at all the issues brought in front of us, if we give each of them the same thought and concern, no matter what our decision is, it shows that, we've taken that to be something that is important to us. And I think that's part of what we got out of the leaf blower conversation, but also just it's a good thing to think about as we legislate going forward. And as always, want to thank all the employees, particularly as we went through some really hectic snow last couple of weeks. But I think overall, we're getting a good job. And I just think that right now, hopefully the next snowstorm won't be as bad, come out of it okay. And I just can't wait to get to April to where the weather is much nicer. Thank you.
Sure, appreciate that. Let's do Councilman Price Abrams.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I did speak a bit earlier with regard to the leaf blowers, so I won't. Who's making all the noise?
Hold on one second, Councilman. You're right. Can everyone please mute if you are not speaking? Just we're hearing a lot of background noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, I do feel pleased that we've taken some step with regard to the leaf blowers and that there's ongoing conversations we're going to have with different constituencies. And I think that will be something to the good for the town. Something that came up, it's probably, somewhat routine. There are accidents. There's a particular intersection in the 3rd Ward that drew a lot of attention from residents. And I understand from the manager, that will be placed into the appropriate kind of evaluation by the police department in terms of a traffic study and whether it bears, it meets conditions that something may be done there. So just that people who are concerned about that, if you didn't hear back directly, you should know that that is, being pursued and taken seriously, of course. Maybe it's a reminder as well for folks to slow down a bit. I mean, never mind bad roads with some of the weather we're having, but I live on Harrison Avenue. There are cars, really hightailing it pretty fast down my street. And that's true in these other neighborhoods as well. And that's really goes to public safety. I don't know that I have anything else really to say except for to acknowledge some of the work, again, that's being done by members of the COVID task force. David touched upon some of those just now. And it's sort of like a a counterpart to the work that we're doing. It's very tangible, hands-on stuff. I do need to read more closely what's been put out there in terms of the day-to-day on that, but I really do appreciate that there are very dedicated public servants in this town in all kinds of capacities, but the need that is being addressed through folks stepping up to serve on these committees of the task force that you've established is really a very important service to our town, and I just want to acknowledge and appreciate them and pass it along for tonight. Thank you.
Councilwoman, appreciate that. Next, let's go to Councilwoman Schlager.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to ask everybody to be very mindful of when they're driving down a lot of our streets because of the snow piles that are on either side of most of all of our streets, that the streets have all become very narrow because of that. And we have to really be cautious when making turns into streets and also as we go side by side. I know Forest Street is having some issues, and I've been in touch with them, with the manager and Mr. Scantlebury about that. I commend Upper Montclair, which is great. One side of the street, there's no parking, so it's so much easier to get down that street. That was really great. And it makes a big difference. I also, what was my other thing? I forgot what it was. So I want to ask people to be mindful of that. I also, Edgemont Park, I've asked the manager, and he has subsequently asked Mr. Wood and Mr. Bianco to monitor the pond to see if we get to a frozen state where we could have skating on the pond. And we were doing really well till it hit 53 degrees today. And Mr. Stafford informed me that he saw lots of puddles in the pond as he drove by. So we are monitoring that. It's always our hope to have skating on the pond, and it's just a wonderful thing. We haven't had it in a couple of years, so hope, and we'll see how the weather goes. But and good luck to everybody on Thursday and the next snowstorm. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Do you have your skates ready? Should it freeze up? Are you ready to go?
No, I was going to borrow Lauren's.
Next, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
And I was going to borrow the mayor's skates, Robin, actually, because we know he was an accomplished hockey player. He doesn't like to talk about it, but
yeah,
had a very distinguished hockey career as well.
I bet you. How many pairs do you have, Mayor?
I've got everyone covered if we want to bring this to the room.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you also, Councilwoman Schlager. And thank Mr. Scantlebury as well. We saw that there was an issue with the street in Upper Montclair there, particularly between Lorraine and Bellevue. And and thank you to the chief Conforti as well, because they got on it pretty quickly. And we had the county come out originally to try to move some more of the snow because people were losing their side mirrors and things like that. And thank the county, actually. Sanjeev came out pretty much right away and looked at it. Unfortunately, there's literally no place to put the snow. And we probably, those of us on the prior council know, we tried moving it around years ago and got in trouble with DEP because there was environmental issues because the snow was treated, it had salt. We tried to put it in some of the parks. And of course, the residents complained, rightly so, about that. So that just wasn't an option. So answering that question to all those who emailed, that was the reason. We also, I want to thank Mr. Wood, Mr. Bianco, Mr. Stafford, Mr. Scantlebury again. It's not been an easy February, and every time I pick up my phone and look at the weather app, 5 out of the 7 days either say snow and or ice. So I know after a while, it's not necessarily the size of the storm, but the duration of the need to salt and cinder and plow and everything else. So thank you all for being on top of that as well. We had a couple of calls, just a couple of issues. want people to be aware that the energy aggregation notices came out. Got a lot of calls on this one. You'll see that, you're going to get your papers and everything. Take a look, read it. Don't throw it out. It's important. It's important that you look at that, make an informed decision going forward. Want to thank everyone who's called me about that issue as well. Real quick on the library, because I'm getting some emails about this as well. I was at the Finance Committee meeting. So was Mayor Spiller, so was Mr. Cummings, so was Mr. Stafford, so was Mr. Karasik, so was Mr. Scantlebury, so was Mr. Beneke, and so was our CFO, Ms. Rao. I know we had asked the library what they needed to do what they needed to do. We didn't get an answer. We asked again. We got a half answer. Got a couple emails after that, and we met the number that we were asked to meet, period. So I really don't have much more to say on that one. We've been extremely busy. In addition to all the things going on with snowstorms and COVID, the mayor and I, as well as Councilman Iacobellis, have been having bi-weekly, tri-weekly meetings with the business leaders to try and do all that we can with the snow and with the COVID crisis that we're all dealing with. We've also, I've had several meetings with many of the developers in town. I've looked at the Lackawanna properties as well. I appreciate all who reached out to me and have shared that information with me. And, a lot of the times people don't understand too, we're also having all of our committee meetings. So Finance Committee meeting with Mayor Spiller and Councilman Cummings, that's every other week. And we have those Zoom calls, sometimes 7:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. So, there's Public Safety Committee has been meeting regularly with Councilman Russo and also with Councilman Cummings and I. We've been dealing with a lot of those issues, including the body cam, including the, various issues that have come up regarding policing. And we've taken that very seriously with regards to the body cam. I'm hoping that the state actually finds us some money if we are requested to do that. And that's a huge nut to crack in the middle of a pandemic. And we've discussed that as well, both finance and public safety. So just to give everyone a heads up, we're out there hitting it and doing the best that we can. And I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, appreciate that. Next, let's go to Councilman Iacobellis.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll really just echo a lot of what you all have said already, just in thanks to the township workforce for keeping up with North Dakota level season. It's been great. I think the service has been pretty terrific. In terms of the stormwater ordinance that we passed tonight, I just want to thank everybody involved in that. I spent a couple hours early this afternoon reading through all the materials. It's clear a lot of work went into that in terms of Neglia Engineering, the planning board that I know weighed in on it, the Environmental Commission, Ms. Talley and the planning office. Just thanks for some really well-prepared documents to help accompany that ordinance to help us make a final decision on that. I wanted to just quickly mention also the energy aggregation notice. Been having a lot of commentary on this with folks over email as well. And, my recommendation is to do nothing and the reason for that is because you really are getting energy at the same, if not slightly less expensive rate. And we're procuring twice as much renewable energy from the source as we did in the previous agreement that the previous council enacted that expired in December. And particularly the option to opt up, if you can do that as well. If you have the means and can afford to do so, we have the ability, and our household will be doing that, to source all of our energy from 100% renewable sources. So if you think about, we drive a hybrid and eventually we'll get an electric vehicle. If you're plugging your electric vehicle into your home and you're sourcing your energy from coal and oil still, you're not doing that much good. If you can make the switch sooner to 100% renewable, then you're sourcing energy for your electric car from solar and wind. So that's where we need to get everybody. And I know that's where the Biden administration is focused in terms of having a zero emission economy by 2050. And it's exciting to see what companies like GM are doing on that front. Lastly, just want to mention, I know, Mayor, you'll probably speak to this as well, but the Shop, Eat, Repeat campaign that the task force has rolled out, complementing the Love Our Montclair campaign, that you, myself, Mr. Herlock, the bid and everybody worked on rolling out last year as well. So we've got some really great marketing campaigns out there and contests for people to support our local restaurants and stores. So make sure you're getting out there, you're using the hashtags, you're following the conditions of the contest. There's money to be won. There's some cool things happening. And I really, really, really believe if we can get these businesses over the next couple of weeks, over the hump of the next couple of weeks, that we're going to be in better shape come the nicer weather. So let's get out there and make sure we're doing everything we can to support. And just thank you all again for the robust dialogue on the leaf blower ordinance. I'm really excited about what we were able to accomplish tonight collaboratively. And thank you again to Councilman Russo for giving me the confidence too that we could do more than I thought we initially could. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, sir. And let's go to Councilman Russo. Councilman, you're muted.
Good. I enjoy being a mentor to many of my students, even if some of my council colleagues. 21 years, we're coming up on 21 years I've served on the council sporadically. You know, I was mayor, I was council, first ward, I was council at large now. I keep looking back at all these same fights over things. You know, it started in the 1990s on leaf blowers, and that's where I bring back that historical perspective. We've tried to get rent control for 50 years, and finally we have it. We're still fighting for it. I hope that all gets worked out, but we're trying to protect seniors and tenants, you know, and children. Looking at the children of Montclair, I just have to say again, I know I said it in the press, teachers are kind of forgotten in the whole thing where everybody talks about, you know, going back to school and opening schools. Well, Philadelphia right now has the teachers union saying we need ventilation. The problem in Philadelphia, very old schools like we have, and they're just putting these fans in windows, which don't solve anything. So I'd like to I keep saying to people, we need to vaccinate and ventilate. It's an easy slogan, vaccinate and ventilate. I got my vaccine because I'm 73 and I was able to teach the first class in person today. The last two were Zoom, and every other Friday will be Zoom. But you really have to protect those workers going into the schools. They're frontline workers, not just the teachers. It's the nurses, it's the management of the schools, the principals, it's the custodial staff in school. They all need to be vaccinated so we protect those children coming in, and we protect them as workers, because all you need is an outbreak at a school to just close the school down. So let's do it right. It's not a union issue. People are very, very negative around the country towards the AFT and NEA. And I'll tell you, folks, I've been a union leader of teachers union since I first started in 1968, and there was no blackboard in my classroom, and I joined the AFT. I respect the two unions, AFT and NEA, that lead teachers, almost 6 million total teachers and education workers all over this country. I want to see us all work together, parents, teachers, children, but let's not make teachers a scapegoat. Let's not make teachers to blame for this situation. The government has to, from the president to the governor, make teachers a priority for vaccination. And then let's invest in the ventilation systems that permanently fix these issues. It's a problem because we don't have the money. Well, the money can come from the 1.9 trillion, that the president's proposing. And I just hope we get enough votes in Congress and enough bipartisan support to get these things done. The key to all of it is bipartisan. I was so happy to see, you know, bipartisan, maybe tripartisan, because you have two senators who are independents, technically, in the U.S. Senate, 7 Republican senators, and the other 48, I believe, 48 Democrats. When you get a tripartisan unity like that, that's a fantastic thing. And I just hope that continues on voting for stuff like the pandemic relief bill. Now, statewide, I just want to say again, I've said this all the years I've been on the council, I hate mandates that are unfunded. So just like the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities with Education Act, was never fully funded in the federal government. For 50 years, we fought to get the funding we need, which costs our school system so much. It's special ed is critical, but 25% of our budget, we only get a few percents from the federal government. Let's not have the same situation with body cams. I support body cams, but I don't like when they don't fund this essential piece of equipment for our police. And I want to see what I think is going to turn out to be a partially funded mandate, fully funded. And we need the state to step up and federal government to step up. So it all goes back to Washington. It all goes back to Trenton. Montclair does our best. All my council colleagues, the incumbents who've worked with me for years know we've worked very hard to keep our finances in order to be fiscally responsible and fiscally conservative, pay down our debt through Mayor Jackson's efforts, and all the financial responsibility we've taken. We try to keep your taxes on a municipal level down, but there are county taxes, there are school costs, and the federal government is where we have to get aid for our schools through IDEA being fully funded. And we have to get the pandemic relief money to make up the losses we've had and to repair our school buildings to the point where they are safe to be used by teachers and students alike. So let's all work together, Republicans and Democrats, independents, to push our Congress, to call people in other states to ask them. I have relatives who are going to go up and move to Alaska. I said, give Murkowski some help, because here you've got a woman who's independent is going to be under attack and struggle to try to survive. I hate to see that just because she spoke out, but there's a person in Alaska who we need to have work maybe with the president to get this through. I just hope next week we see this act with $1.9 trillion with a piece of it for schools, for COVID vaccines and healthcare, and for infrastructure, and also for reimbursing municipalities for our expenses. As Councilor Hurlock said, as Deputy Mayor Hurlock said, got a lot of financial problems. We're losing money all over. We lose businesses. We're going to recover by next year, I think. The mayor's pandemic and COVID task force is working hard to get us back. It's going to work out, everybody. We're going to be better. Next year, it'll be wonderful. The spring starts quieter. We'll have a quieter town. We'll have a healthier town. Kids back in school. But let's all work together. All parties, all ideologies. Everybody has a common interest in our schools, our infrastructure, our healthcare, our seniors. Let's just work together. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Let me go around the horn. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sad to have to relay that as of this evening, the official reports are that the confirmed number of COVID-19 cases in our township is 1,806, and that number includes 64 individuals who did not survive the illness. To that point, the Montclair YMCA and MedRight have partnered to offer COVID-19 testing at the Wise 25 Park Street location through April 30th. Testing will be available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and in February only on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Masks are required. MedRight staff will collect patient information on site. Patients must bring a health insurance card and a photo ID. Patients will receive rapid test results within an hour and PCR lab tests within 24 to 72 hours after they reach the lab. All testing is at no cost to the patient and covered by insurance. For more information on testing, please contact MedRight at info@onsitecovid19testing.com. For questions directed to the YMCA of Montclair, please contact Lisa Kievit, Senior Membership Director at 973-559-9281. And of course, information is available on the Montclair Wise website. Upcoming Essex County COVID-19 testing location and dates include Tuesday, February 16 from 3:30 to 6:30 at the Essex County Hall of Records Complex's employee parking deck located at 50 West Market Street in Newark. On Thursday, February 18 from 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Essex County Department of Public Works located at 99 West Bradford Avenue in Cedar Grove. And on Saturday, February 20 from 8 a.m. to noon at the Essex County South Mountain Recreation Complex's commuter parking deck located at 560 Northfield Avenue in West Orange. 800 tests are available by appointment at each testing event. County residents age 8 and older with or without symptoms are encouraged to get tested. Residents are encouraged to get retested if they've taken the swab or saliva tests 14 days ago or more and received negative test results. Testing is provided free of charge, and in this instance, no health insurance information is required. Additional dates will be announced by the county. But again, remember, appointments are required. To schedule an appointment, please call 973-877-8456 or go to www.essexcovid.org. You will be required to complete a short questionnaire, and when finished, you'll be provided with an appointment, time and date and confirmation number. Residents should bring the confirmation number with them, and it is asked that they arrive 15 minutes before their scheduled appointments. Due to the forecasted inclement weather, the Essex County Emergency Food Distribution event scheduled for Thursday, 2 days from today, February 18, has been canceled. The next food distribution event will be held on Thursday, February 25. Details will be announced by the county, and you can pay attention to the Township's website because we will post that information when we receive them. The county is currently registering the following for COVID-19 vaccinations when they become available: those in Group 1A, including healthcare workers and others working in a healthcare setting, as well as adults age 65 and older, and anyone between the ages of 16 and 64 with certain medical conditions as listed by the CDC that would increase the risk of severe illness from the virus. And these conditions include smoking. Montclair residents are tested at the former Kmart building located at 235 Prospect Avenue in West Orange. To register for an appointment, please visit www.essexcovid.org or call 973-877-8456. That number, 973-877-8456, has also been designated by the county as a call center to answer general COVID-19 vaccination and testing questions. Call center hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. As of this afternoon, 1,277 companies have posted hundreds and hundreds of jobs on the state of New Jersey's COVID-19 jobs and hiring portal. That portal can be found by clicking jobs.covid19.nj.gov. Again, jobs.covid19.nj.gov. And lastly, I would like to reiterate the critical information that New Jerseyans feeling the emotional and mental toll of COVID-19 can get support from a special helpline. New Jersey Mental Health Cares, the state's behavioral health information and referral service, offers help to people dealing with anxiety and worry related to COVID-19. New Jerseyans can call 866-202-HELP. That's 866-202-4357 for free confidential support. This line is staffed from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week by live trained specialists. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Manager.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Councilor Cummings on being acknowledged tomorrow by the Essex County Board of Commissioners during the African American Heritage Month for his efforts in Montclair as a 4th Ward councilperson. I want to congratulate him. There are a lot of people that are very proud of you, and not bad for 7 months on the job. So again, congratulations, Councilor. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Scantlebury. I appreciate that.
Big congrats. Let's go to our Township Attorney.
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Okay. And our Township Clerk.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will just quickly reiterate what's been said. Also, a big thank you to the task force that certainly put together. I think they've been doing some really awesome work in conjunction, as Councilman Iacobello said, some of the work they're doing around the shop, eat, repeat, and some of the work that we had in place and pieces that we had in place. I think that's been going really well. They've hosted town halls as well, in addition to the ones I've done on the vaccine and some other pieces. They've done some on PPP and other pieces to help our small businesses. That's been great. as Councilman Cummings has noted, teamed up to work with the nonprofits and a great public-private partnership to help our homeless shelter, especially as we know, given the inclement weather we've had so often of late. So certainly some great things that are happening there, and want to commend them and thank them for all the work that they're doing. I also just wanted to really briefly highlight again, I know it's been said, the energy aggregation program. That's one that I certainly could not be more proud of. I know we took a significant amount of time in the last council to look through and to make sure we're in the right position on this. Since that contract expired, that was a contract, by the way, that got residents an even greener amount of energy than this time coming up, but it was an opportunity there to get an extensive amount of green energy. And that dollar amount, the latest that I've been able to get, is about $850,000 saved townwide amongst our residents through the energy aggregation program. So again, unbelievably green energy at significant savings. And again, the note has always been to try and get savings. The green energy component is a little reduced in this one. It's still double the state amount requirement, so that's an excellent piece. But also it's always to make sure that it's at a cost that is the same or cheaper than would be coming in otherwise. So really great program. We're leaders on the environmental issues for many reasons, many of which we discussed in these meetings because of the policy actions that we take. Tonight, no exception. But also, this is a big one, right? When we talk about the one-offs and the small pieces, this is a town-wide effort that has significant impact, both environmentally and of course, it's at times financially. Also, as Councilman Yacobelis noted, there's an option to upgrade to 100% renewable, which is a really cool feature. So anyone who's interested in that, please look at that as well. And the other thing I would just say is, certainly we know that we've had significant storm events here of late. We know what that means. We're hearing a lot of talk of the snow removal. We all understand the challenges during a pandemic. We've got our snow removal costs. We've got the salt costs, costs of getting out and doing things. I think it's also important to note, when we see, I can tell you, as the deputy mayor noted, we're on these finance calls and we hear, hundreds of thousands of dollars, 200,000 here, 300,000 there, that we have to pay to clear decks and lots and other pieces with independent work that comes in to support that effort. You realize how expensive each of these events really is and what it does to a budget in a ready during a pandemic time. So, we remain focused, though, on making sure everything's safe and ready to go. The crews do a great job. So, Mr. Stafford, again, we thank everybody, hopefully in advance of a storm that is not to come, but we will see what happens on Thursday. With that, I think everybody's focused on all the work, as the deputy mayor said, and all these subcommittee meetings that we have going on and making sure that we are running as smoothly as possible and providing support and services where needed. So, again, thank all my colleagues. Appreciate the conversation and the actions, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night.
Good night.
I'll be safe.
Night, everyone.
Be safe.